What's the worst thing about Michigan?
What's the worst thing about Michigan? Proximity to Toledo. It's really unfortunate.
Yeah, that's rough.
The Ruckus is a large Infinity tournament aimed most especially at folks in the Midwest. It was originally in Cleveland, and the goal is to host a tournament in a central location. You know, make it a nice trip for the gobs of Ohio and Michigan and even Indiana Infinity players. I don't know why the Midwest has so many tabletop gamers. Maybe it's because we have cold winters, numerous small cities, and lots of retail space. Maybe it's just something in the polluted Michigan air.
Right now, I'm just taking a 5-minute break, and I just wanted to say that if you've never been to the USA, Michigan is, the ads are right. This is it, baby. It's pure Michigan.
I'd actually gone before back in 2019, but extenuating circumstances prevented me from attending since then.
A recognition of the ability to respect the cooperative, competitive spirit of Infinity. So don't give a guy a good score just because you...
That was my first tabletop tournament, and I learned a lot. That I also forgot afterwards. My main takeaways from that event. Number 1, my first opponent had come all the way from Panama City. Number 2, my third opponent was probably pissed at me because I skipped round 3 to go to a barbecue. Tournaments are competitive by default, but you don't have to have a bad time. Infinity is a fairly collaborative tabletop experience. You have to constantly be asking your opponent, is this okay? Is this a legal arrow? This is my intent, what happens? That communication makes Infinity tournaments as much a social event as a competition. You talk a lot. That leads to my first big tip for any tabletop tournament. Think of it as an experience, not just a series of games. If you're traveling, check out the food along the way. I stopped at Taqueria El Gallo de Oro in Toledo, and it was amazing. Especially the dessert, which was cucumbers with sauce, spicy peanuts, and red gummy strings. Wow! Go with friends. Try to coordinate as a chance to see people from out of town. Maybe you've got an internet friend who lives nearby, or a cultural site to check out.
So Michigan's roads, not great. Sidewalks, non-existent. But the abandoned churches, plentiful. Actually, I wonder if this one is totally abandoned. Might be some good stuff going on inside.
Second, always read the mission and the rules. Some war games encourage you to make a single list based around certain units. That's a bit more difficult in Infinity. Instead, you'll want to read all the missions for the tournament and make the 2 lists. What I did was I made one list that was generally good at the missions, and one that was still capable but really centered around fighting fire teams. The first had lots of specialists and gunfighters. The second had more tricky hidden deployers and cheap models to trade up. This worked pretty well, and I came solidly in the middle, so although I'm not an expert, I am a solid middle of the road, so you can trust that advice. I'd trust that advice.
Fucking knew it!
Finally, choose the right tournament. It doesn't matter what game it is. It could be anything from chess to Street Fighter to Infinity to Pokemon. Those are the 4 types of games. If it's local, you have nothing to lose but an afternoon of your time. If it's great, it's a chance to game and meet new people. And if it's awful, you can always leave. Just hit the bricks. If you're instead traveling, find other people to talk to, hang with, travel with, and especially eat with. Find out the tournament's vibe. Ask if the TO has done this before.
All the winners have jerseys. I don't have a jersey.
Basically, ask yourself why you would want to go to the event, and if the event aligns with your goal. What is a good time for you? What would help you enjoy yourself? I was lucky because this event offered me everything I wanted and a little more. For example, it was a charitable event, which was really valuable to me, and it even had a charity raffle. I got a copy of Paranoia, the role-playing game, which was unexpected and cool. Other people got painted armies.
Another fucking jersey.
This event was really up my alley, so it was a great trip overall. Much of that comes from Lee and the other organizers. After prizes were handed out, I took a few minutes to chat with Lee about the Rust Belt Ruckus and events in general.
So Lee, what gave you the idea to run the Ruckus? You know, what made you think I need to run a tournament?
Well, I ran the Michigan GT for Infinity for several years, and because it was in Lansing, it wasn't easy to get people out because of the location of the state.
Right.
So rather than keep building a small event tiny bit by tiny bit, I just used what I learned doing that con to start putting on my own event.
That's awesome. How'd you get so many people from around even around the world? Like people flying from other countries?
Oh yeah, no, we've had people from all over. This is the third Ruckus. I go to their events.
Wow.
So I've been to the last 3 Novas, 4 of the last 5 Baltimore Brawls. You know, I try to get around.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
What sets the Ruckus apart, you think?
I don't think anything does. It's a community effort. All the large events are community run. Any store can put together, a little 8-person, and they're fun. I mean, don't get me wrong, we run little 8-person fun events. But it takes a community to pull together to do something like this.
That's super cool. Do you think Michigan has a great community for Infinity
Oh,
players?
absolutely. And it's not Michigan. It is Michigan, Ohio. Because the bleed over from even as far as Cleveland is consistent.
Sure. What would you say to someone who wants to get into Infinity? Would you recommend they check out a store? Is there a page or anything that you recommend?
Well, I think the forums are a hellscape, and I'm not a big fan of the large groups. It's really just an issue of finding the local communities, not super local, but there's a large Nova, Northern Virginia, Maryland community.
Yeah.
We've put together the Discord for the Ruckus, which is we just keep drawing in the people who are interested.
So maybe people could check out the a WarCor search and find someone in their area.
Yep.
And I like that. This is a charity raffle, right? Well, what's the charity you're supporting?
Gleaners Community Food Bank. They work with the FDA and large organizations to make sure that your local food banks have the food that's given out. So they are charity distribution for local charities.
Last question, Lee. Was this a good one?
Oh, they're always good. The only one that was bad was the one where everybody had paid, we were all ready for it to happen, and inexplicably there was a pandemic. Funny how that works. Outside of that, they've all been great.
I love it.
And the pandemic one, we still turned it into a hobby event and gave out all the things that we've gotten as prizes.
So cool. Very last question. What do you want to do next year?
Oh, the same thing, just bigger.
Awesome. Well, if you guys want to check it out, I will have a link to the Ruckus events, and you guys can give it a try next year.
This is the end of the video. I hope it's convinced you to seek out events of whatever your preference and skill, and if not, I hope it brought you a modicum of joy. I'll see you again soon.